We are back in England on the 1st of January 1520. Yeah, we still are not playing the game yet, but there's quite a bit still to cover. I've zoomed in slightly so you can see more or less what things look like in the political map mode. I'm using a hand-drawn map mod, which makes it look a little different from the basic game. The colors are more or less the same though, so Scotland will still be yellow, England will still be red, that sort of thing. The map is kind of just a general overview right now. We've sort of gone over the different modes. So let's take a look at the rest of the interface. By the way, in the last few videos, for some reason, Fraps did not get the cursor. I guess I had that disabled, and it was actually a hardware cursor. So that's why it wasn't seen. So all the things that I was pointing at and circling with my mouse didn't appear, which meant it was kind of useless. Okay, up here in the top left corner, we have the coat of arms and the name of the country. Clicking this will open another menu. I'll get to that in a moment. On the top bar, we have some of the very general statistics that are pretty important. This one is manpower. And with anything that you pretty much do in a Paradox game, if you hover your mouse over it, you'll see some information. If you leave it hovered, you'll be able to see even more information. In this case, we kind of get a general idea of manpower, which is how many men we can put in our armies at a given time, and also they serve as reinforcements when men die in battle or to attrition, that sort of thing. So England has 13,419 guys available, a maximum of about 15,548, and we get 672 each month. All our armies are fully reinforced, they're not losing any guys, and they don't have any men down, so we don't need any right now. And then the value that appears if we leave it hovered over tells us how much our base manpower is and why we're not gaining that amount instead. I'm not totally sure why England is getting more manpower than its base value, considering it has 15% negative modifiers to that, but I'm sure there's probably a reason, probably something I'm forgetting. The scales represent stability, which is kind of a general how things are going in the nation. It goes from -3 to +3. It's better when it's positive, obviously. And it has the following effects. It lowers revolt risk, makes it easier for your merchants to compete, gives you a little bit of other general benefits. When it's low, you can invest in it, which you probably should. It can get expensive if you have a lot of off-culture provinces, so we're English, so if we had Scotland, that wouldn't be a big problem. It's just a few more provinces, and they're within our culture group. If we got the Irish provinces, a little bit more, because we don't have an Irish culture. We don't have a Celtic culture, so they're going to be a little bit of a drag on stability gain. If we went and conquered parts of France, that would be a huge stability problem, and it would be much slower to regenerate. Really small nations get stability very quickly, so it's easy for them to recover. Third here is money. It's represented in ducats of gold, which is kind of a funny thing. This is pretty much what's spent on everything. So money comes from taxes, which all your provinces pay taxes on various bases. I'll get to that when we go over the economy in more detail. But hovering over it shows how much money you have, which is kind of obvious. It is, technically, it just rounds, so as you can see, this says we have 236, but we actually have 236.7. You can't spend fragments of ducats, but it's important to know. And then it tells us how much money we're losing every month, how much money we get every year, and our net income from that. As the little pop-up shows, there's monthly and yearly incomes. The monthly income is pretty much always spent, and it's pretty much always overspent. So every time you are going to go through a month, you're probably going to be losing money. That's not because you're doing something wrong, that's actually just part of the game. The way it works is you'll lose money on a monthly basis, but you gain it from a census tax at the beginning of the year. So the goal is to balance your income so that you're not spending too much at a given time. So for here, we're losing 6 a month, we get 182 a month, so we're still making money. But if we spent that money, then obviously we're going to have to deal with that, make sure we don't go into negative money. That would force us to take a loan or force us into bankruptcy, both of which are kind of bad. The third factor is prestige, and this is basically who is the most awesome person in the world. Is it our king, or is it some other jackass? Fortunately, we have decently high prestige at the beginning of a scenario. It's pretty low because it goes from 0 to 100. Actually, I think it can go negative, but I've never been that bad at it at the game. Prestige used to do very little. It was just kind of a score ranking. In Heir to the Throne, it's become extremely important, and the pop-up here kind of shows all the things that it can give you. It's a lot. You can get more diplomats, stronger, more resilient merchants, better morale for your armies, better spy defense, and it also boosts legitimacy, which I'll get to in just a second here. The flag here represents infamy. Infamy is a stat that used to be called various things, bad boy, reputation, stuff like that. It's basically how poorly you've conducted yourself diplomatically. When you take a lot of provinces in war without a good reason for it, you'll get this. You also get it for certain spying missions when they go bad. You know, trying to assassinate someone's ministers is not well received. As it goes up, you start taking hits to merchant chances and other things like that, and also to your diplomacy. So just because it says 0 of 37 doesn't mean we want to go up to 37. Even having 5 or 10 can be bad. Of course, if you want to conquer, you have to take the hit, and you have to bleed it off over time. But there are ways to lower it. As you can see, controlling cardinals in the Catholic Church is one way. The ruler helps. And there are advisors that can lower it, which are very good to have if you're going on a conquering spree. The third one, or the final one, this crown, is legitimacy, which is a new feature in Heir to the Throne. You'll only see legitimacy if you're a monarchy. If you're a republic, this area will be blank, there will be no stat, it won't matter. Legitimacy is basically how people see the monarch within the country. If you're not very well received, if your legitimacy is low, then basically there's a chance that your heir will be disputed, some other nation will claim your throne, the people will rise up against it, you'll get a pretender, various other things. It also has nice effects on the tolerance of religions in your nation, your infamy. It makes stability a little easier to regain. So if you have 100, which is the top, then people like your monarch. They want to see him in power, see his family in power. If you have an heir with a weak claim, then you might lose legitimacy when he inherits the throne, but you can get it back. One of the best ways to get it back is to have a lot of royal marriages. So marry off to, all the countries that you can. There are downsides to having a lot of royal marriages too, though.